Anyway, speaking of Israel, How to Defend Genocide by Bad Empanada. A lot of people wanted me to watch this. Apparently, this is a very good analysis on, broader points of obviously broader points on Israel doing a genocide in Gaza, but then also simultaneously covering it from the drama angle. I think that Bad Empanada is doing a good job of like using the drama angle to get people's attention to issues that truly matter. Now, Bad Empanada, I do not agree with a lot of the things that he says. As a matter of fact, I would say I agree with nothing that he says on Twitter. Okay. Bad Empanada also is not a fan of mine in many instances and has said that I am not sufficiently pro-Palestine and that I fucked up by going to the DNC or something like that. I don't know. He's a bit crazy. He's out there. But even though we might have our disagreements, okay? Even though we have our disagreements, certainly, I've always maintained the position that his work on YouTube stands on its own. His YouTube essays are fantastic. His YouTube essays are awesome. And they're well sourced and well researched for the most part. Okay.
Justify.
Bad Empanada is against reacting to his videos on stream. Yeah. Okay. Well, he can fucking copy strike me then. Just kidding. I know that he's not. He has said that before. But in that same time frame, he has also demanded that I react to some of his videos over and over again. So I don't know where he stands on that because, like I said, I am subscribed to his channel. I have watched his videos in the past, not on stream. And all I'm going to say is, you can't, maybe next week he'll hate that I'm watching his videos, and maybe this week he doesn't. Who knows? Okay, I don't care.
Viable. What do you do when you are completely committed to defending a state, no matter what it does, when what it's doing makes doing that increasingly difficult?
Can you at least spam the link in the chat? It costs nothing. Why are you saying this? Like, why do you act like we don't do that all the time whenever we watch YouTube videos on this channel? This is one of my least favorite types of chatters who come in here and demand something that we have literally done every single fucking time to make it seem as though we don't do that. Like, it's so fucking smug and so goddamn annoying. You know what I mean? Shut the fuck up. It's passive-aggressive nonsense. Don't do that. Can you at least spam his link? It costs nothing. Like, you literally are scolding me for something that I always fucking do. The link always gets pinned in the fucking chat. I already said I've subscribed to his channel. The title is right here, and motherfuckers still do what they do, you know?
And when trying to do so, will invariably make you come off as more than a little bit ridiculous, as well as a Goebbels tier genocide propagandist. It turns out that self-assigned job is really quite difficult. And I'm going to go over some examples here that show just how hard of a task these brave pro-genocide propagandists have committed themselves to in their fanatical, never-ending quest to justify, downplay, apologize for, or deny anything they think they possibly can regarding the ongoing Gaza genocide. This video was made possible thanks to my supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi. If you like it and you'd like to see more like it, consider heading over there and supporting me yourself. This is Israel's self-appointed lawyer, the YouTuber Lonerbox. He has taken it upon himself to do every possible thing that he can to defend Israel's Gaza genocide. You're about to see him attempt his best defense of the revelation from a New York Times investigation that Israeli soldiers have intentionally been massacring.
That motherfucker defended? No. there is no fucking way this dude literally defended the babies with fucking bullets lodged into their goddamn brains, dude. That is, holy moly, that shit's
children
crazy.
in droves via single, precise shots to the head. Multiple doctors and nurses who spent time serving in Gaza hospitals during the genocide attested to the fact that between them,
They had seen many dozens, upwards of 100
We've been telling you he's a freak. Dog, he actively has the audience attack because I asked him about that. Dude, my statement on this remains, okay? You never get punished if you are wrong, but wrong in the direction of whatever America's foreign policy interests are. Never, ever, ever. Okay? You can just be wrong literally all the time, but as long as you have as long as you are repeating messages that are coming, as long as you are repeating institutional messages, as long as you're repeating American foreign policy goals, it literally does not matter. No one tracks it as like, damn, dude, I keep listening to you and I keep finding myself wrong all the fucking time.
in total cases of children shot in the head.
and they provided the New York Times with x-rays that show these injuries, as well as photographic evidence, which the Times considered too graphic to publish, of these children's gunshot wounds to the head. The evidence that this is a systemic practice of the Israeli military in Gaza is quite overwhelming. So how does
When you showed Lonerbox's videos earlier this year, I tried to say your admirable charitability was wasted on him, and his chat told him to whisper me to intimidate me.
a pro-genocide propagandist deal with this? Let's take a look. Here is the reaction of Israel's lawyer to seeing political commentator Mehdi Hassan bring this up in a debate.
3 American doctors went to Gaza. Dr. Feyyaz Sidwa, Dr. Irfan Galaria, and a Jewish American doctor called Dr. Mark Perlmutter. All of them came back at separate times, said children were brought into hospitals we were in with gunshot to the head, sniper shots. Perfect. Exact targets. There is no tunnel that justifies shooting toddlers in the head. Israeli snipers.
Does this guy not know how sniping jobs work? Like, the problem with sniping isn't like the accuracy is not because obviously you got your scope and the fucking like yeah, it's quite easy. You can accurately snipe, but targets and personnel move really, really fast when you're sniping. Like snipers make their decisions in less than a split second in combat situations.
Child's heads are really hard to target in an active combat situation. Excuse me. Children's heads are way harder to target, so we should be celebrating. Like, what the fuck's the point here? What? Okay. Yeah, they're precise. That's the point. These snipers targeted children in the head and shot them in the head.
Unless he's suggesting there were just a couple of kids sitting on the hill.
No, they were running. Okay, they were running, and a sniper utilized their precise targeting capabilities to shoot them in the head.
The guy opposite in a building just went, got him, take him out.
And I'm fairly certain that is what happened. This is the guy who clip chimps you to the liberals, and they quote tweeted all day, by the way, and the level of crazier haters adhere to. Yeah, I have not given a fuck about all my haters as long as they had like normal positions on this, but it seems like I was wrong, and it seems like I was incredibly wrong on Lonerbox having like relatively decent positions on Israel. I fucking holy shit, dude. This is like extreme. This is maxed out.
Maybe someone committed a war crime. But I don't think that's Israeli policy, is to snipe kids for no reason. To snipe toddlers, but okay.
Oh, it's just an accident. It's just, guys, this is just a happy accident. An unhappy accident. You don't understand, you fool.
Okay, so the rebuttal there is that apparently this is just happening by accident. Israeli snipers are accidentally shooting hundreds of kids in the head because
a pattern observable by healthcare professionals. Okay, so commonplace that it is a pattern that healthcare professionals that went and worked on the field observed it independently of one another, so much so that they all were like shocked when they revealed this information to one another, so much so that even the New York Times wrote an article about it when, you know, they've played a pretty formative role in actively undermining any kind of like humanity that Palestinians may have.
they are mistaking them for fighters or something. And apparently this guy is a sniper expert, and that's how he knows this is happening. It really is that simple.
Does this guy not know how sniping jobs work?
Now, refuting this on a factual basis seems redundant and stupid to even do, because it's clear that he's just making this up in the moment. It's not really a serious argument or anything. He's just desperate to defend anything that Israel does, and that's just what happened to come to his mind in that moment. Nonetheless, it can be refuted on a factual basis. You aim for the head in an assassination when you are sure that you have the shot, and your aim is not to disable the target as a threat, but rather to ensure a kill. In a combat situation, if these were militants who pose a threat, the aim first and foremost is to disable them as a threat, rather than to kill them. And the head is a much smaller target than the body, so it is far safer to aim for the body. So there being so many headshots makes it very, very clear that these are deliberate targeted killings of children. You do not accidentally precisely aim at the head of a child and pull the trigger hundreds of times. Not that it would stop being a war crime.
Dude, your own Turkish government is doing the same to the Kurds. Dude, that's crazy. If you can point to a moment where I've actually agreed with that policy, you know, I'll give you $10,000, all right? Dog, the fuck are you talking about? I literally had a fucking YPG fighter on my stream who I'm close friends with. Suck my dick, okay? What is this? What is this deflection? What is this whataboutism? Okay? And no, the extent of the fucking violence that the Turkish government and Turkish military subjects Kurds to is horrifying, completely unacceptable. I've criticized it over and over again, but make no mistake, even the Kurds in this community will agree that what is happening to the Palestinians is even worse than that. There's no reason to fucking do the Olympics of like who's worse, but you are out of your fucking mind, okay? This does not mean I'm giving permission or agreeing with the Turkish military.
If they were killing hundreds of preteen children with body shots.
Are you fucking serious? He made a fucking video pretending to get blown up by a bomb to make fun of Palestinians. In what fucking world would this guy have good takes? Didn't you say you thought these people were bad? And the only reason I know is because I didn't get pushed by this shit. Left us on Twitter reposting this bullshit shit, responding to it is disgusting. Who made a video? Who made a video pretending to be blown up by a bomb? I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I think you forget that like I might not have the same level of investment with like online content creators that you do. Okay? It's so racist and disingenuous. You are American as well, both in citizenship, but also you are paying taxes that fund this genocide, so you should care about it. Yeah, also, I can't fucking go back to Turkey. So that's the other part of this for all of my many criticisms of the Turkish government. So, yeah, lol, imagine not knowing the takes of these loser YouTubers. Exactly. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to know that shit? I don't know. I don't know what, like, all the latest and greatest of genocide defense that these guys have fucking engaged with. I don't really care.
By any means. And it would also be quite obvious anyway, looking through a sniper scope, that you are looking at a child and not a militant. To precisely aim for the head, line up a shot, take
Does
the
this video have TOS?
shot, and hit it, not just once, but hundreds of times, indicates a level of intent that can only reasonably be described as systematic. But what is Israel's lawyer's argument for why he thinks that despite that overwhelming evidence, it's actually not so obvious? Well,
But I don't think that's Israeli policy, is to snipe kids for no reason. To snipe toddlers, but okay.
you heard right. Just that he thinks Israel wouldn't do it. That's all. That's all he needs. They wouldn't do it. I don't believe they would do it. Evidence be damned. They are not doing it. I said so. Case closed. There's a clear...
So how does he... I would love to find out what he thinks about like why the New York Times wrote this article. Then like what is the? It's just a unfortunate accident like that has played itself over, hundreds of times. Like it doesn't have to be official policy, okay? That's not how this works. When you create a killing field, it doesn't matter. You just let loose whatever the fuck, whatever kind of violent behavior that your occupying forces are engaging in. That's how you arrive at like triple tapping a fucking humanitarian aid convoy that is there engaging in deconfliction with the Israeli government at that time. That's what happened with World Central Kitchen. Okay? It's not a fucking oopsie. All right? It's not. It is disordered deliberately in order to have some shred of plausible deniability, I guess.
Implication there, which should be obvious to anyone who is familiar with the rhetoric of pro-Israel propagandists, that also implying that they would do that intentionally is anti-Semitic. And this sort of claim is very oft-repeated. For example, in this tweet by another pro-Israel propagandist who was very adamant that Israel would simply never kill a child intentionally, it's impossible. They've just committed tens of thousands of unfortunate accidents, systematically, in a clear pattern over the course of a year. Or this abhorrent Guardian article where another pro-Israel propagandist explicitly argues that the media citing factual information about Israel murdering children is a form of anti-Semitic blood libel. Now, Israel's lawyer isn't quite as explicit as that guy was, but the implication is there. He knows what he's doing. The others who do the same thing know what they're doing. The best argument that they have is that in spite of all the evidence that makes it clear as day that they are in fact doing this, they wouldn't do it. After all, they're Jewish. Jewish people can't commit atrocities like everyone else. How dare you imply otherwise? Aside from massacring children, women, men, the elderly, babies, pretty much anyone they can get their hands on, Israel has also been making their defenders' jobs quite a bit harder by just plain making shit up all the time. Whether it's elaborate, obviously fake 3D renderings of Hamas command centers under a hospital, which they then use to justify multiple massacres committed at that hospital, or making ludicrous claims like Palestinians massacring 40 babies, the job of the self-appointed lawyers of Israel becomes harder with every single claim made. Let's refer back to that one again to see how he dealt with the 40 beheaded babies claim.
Again, this is why it's like the 40 beheaded babies. That hoax was not an Israeli, I think there's a better way to put it. The 40 beheaded babies was not actually an Israeli government hoax. It wasn't. It was a misspeak from a journalist that was spread around the world by a few fucking nutters. And then the people who really made it last were people who were anti-Israel. They were the ones who spread that. They're the ones who...
Dog, Joe Biden didn't... Am I crazy? What? Joe Biden, the anti-Israeli nutter. Look alive, Jack. Israel. The Zionist entity must be dismantled piece by piece. Look alive. The Mujahideen. That's the way I see myself. One struggle, united. That's why I'm spreading this pro-Israeli propaganda, because I'm anti-Israel down the line. I've seen the videos. We beat Medicare.
To have kept that alive.
So his strategy here is not to blame that propaganda on the Israelis who made it up and spread it, but rather to blame the people who are against Israel's genocide for calling them out on it and not allowing them to forget it. The first part of this strategy here is not a very advanced one. It's known as lying. He lies about this idea that this was just an error made by one reporter, which was not spread by the Israeli state or other Israeli propagandists, nor anyone of any significance. It was merely mostly picked up on by opponents of Israel, solely by them, which is apparently a bad thing for them to do because, I don't know, apparently it's wrong to point out that Israel is inventing abhorrent, obviously fake, genocide-justifying propaganda over and over again, because who knows why? He doesn't explain it. Here's the thing, though. This was spread by the State of Israel. It was spread by Eilon Levy, their official spokesman at the time. It was spread all over official Israeli social media. It was spread by Netanyahu's personal spokesperson.
When you listed the unconscionable atrocities that took place in that kibbutz, you did say that babies had been decapitated. Can I take that as confirmation then? Because that currently is being reported as reported action. That has actually happened, has it?
Toddlers, babies, I can tell you.
Yeah, these guys are all anti-Israeli, actually. Like, that's what it is. These guys are all... Bad empanada, you don't understand. You don't understand. These are anti-Israeli nutters.
That they, some of them, heads were cut off. This is what we're hearing from from soldiers.
Yeah, they're just like deep undercover, I think.
On the ground, and yes, they cut off heads. They cut off heads.
Which was then seen by US President Joe Biden, who then repeated the claim uncritically in a press conference.
I've been doing this a long time. I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children.
Yeah, that was so... Dude, oh my God. Post-truth world, no more truth, no more facts. Fuck it, YOLO. Okay? Fuck it, YOLO. Here's more liberals post-truth world. Over 700 Starlink satellites have been taken out of orbit. 13.7 million votes missing. Millions received message that there wasn't a ballot that was counted. The vote count in VA, New Jersey, New York, blah, 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 is skewed, but Trump doesn't have more votes. Harris has less voters. Okay? Boom. Joey Bonarino. Banano. The real Joey Banano. 55,000 likes. You got nominated? What did I get nominated for? For Streamer Awards? Hey, congratulations. Thank you. It's an honor to be nominated. What am I nominated for? For the Streamer Awards, just chatting? Nice. Hell yeah. Respect. Thank you. Y'all better vote for me. Congratulated yourself? Yeah. All right, let's continue.
I never thought I'd ever... Anyway.
Biden, the most powerful politician in the world, the leader of the state that is Israel's prime backer and accomplice, continued to repeat that claim for months afterwards. So apparently this claim was just made by one reporter and, just sort of was a fart in the wind, according to this guy. When in actual reality, it was spread precisely by the Israeli state itself, and their key ally, enabler, and supporter, the President of the United States of America. So the strategy of Israel's lawyer here was firstly just to lie, and then also to build on top of that lie by doing some impossibly stupid mental gymnastics to somehow spin globalist tier propaganda, specifically spread by Israel to justify its genocide, on the people who are against the genocide. And I gotta say, it doesn't work at all. It is just kind of self-evidently ludicrous how these people are twisting themselves into knots to justify the unjustifiable. To willingly not just embarrass yourself in public like this, but to do it for the purposes of justifying genocide. I don't think there is an adjective that is strong enough to describe that level of both idiocy and depravity. The Israelis, their supporters, and their American allies spread an obvious lie about fake dead Israeli babies to justify their massacre of thousands of very real Palestinian babies. And we have people like this not talking about those actually real massacred Palestinian babies, but rather how Israeli propaganda about fake massacred Israeli babies is actually to blame on those who are against Israel's genocide. The pure dismissiveness that this guy displays when it comes to Palestinians being massacred, children, babies being killed, it's just inhuman. But if you thought that was bad, how about we move on to one of Lonabox's best friends and frequent collaborators, the streamer Destiny. Topically, he had some comments to make about the self-evidently absurd 40 beheaded babies propaganda, in which he just uncritically accepted Israeli propaganda entirely at its word.
The beheaded baby one, it was mostly factually correct, right? There were 40 dead babies, at least one was decapitated.
I'm sorry, what? Once again, I will repeat my position. You can be correct every single time, but if you are against American foreign policy, they will never let you live it down. They will say you're a terrorist. Okay? They will say you are a terrorist. But you can be wrong literally every single day. You can be wrong every single day. And you will not get punished for it at all. I'm shocked. Like my lack of interest in like covering the dumb shit that this loser has been saying is bad. Is bad. It's a mistake, I think. I'm glad that Bad Empanada has taken on the task.
They weren't all 40 decapitated, right? But it says mostly correct, not 40 beheaded babies, just 40 dead babies with a few of their heads cut off, right?
So much for it only being hung on to by those dastardly anti-genocide people, huh?
It was a misspeak from a journalist that was spread around the world by a few fucking nutters.
Now let's compare the standard of evidence that Destiny has for accepting ridiculous claims made by Israelis with the standard of evidence that he applies to literal video evidence of Palestinians being executed right before his eyes by the Israeli military.
I don't think the beheaded babies thing is worth talking about anymore. What matters is the actual harm that's being done to the Palestinians right now. I know it might be fun to be right, but like I don't think it's super important right now. Are you fucking stupid? This is not just about the beheaded baby shit. This is about an anatomy of defending genocide and how people get away with defending genocide. None of this is fun, by the way.
Now, I can't show the context for the clip that he is reacting to here for fear of potentially getting this video taken down by YouTube.
They're so used to being in their own little echo chambers. The second the spotlight is on them, it just speaks for itself. Yeah, it is. I think this is the video that got Mike banned. Be careful. Yeah, what he said while watching the video is what it got him banned, not the contents of the video.
For showing someone literally dying. But I will describe it to you, and there will be a link in the description. A reporter for the British news outlet ITV approaches a group of people in an Israeli-declared safe zone for civilians. These people are holding a white flag and waving it in order to make it clear to any Israeli troops that they are civilians. The reporter interviews a few of them. They explain that they are evacuating because, as is clear from the billowing smoke and gunshots which can be heard in the background, the supposed safe zone is no longer safe. Having interviewed the men, the interviewer turns around and leaves. Suddenly, Israeli troops begin firing on this group, and they hit one of them, killing him instantly. He is pulled aside behind cover by his companions, where they are joined by other civilians who are also evacuating. Amidst their screams and cries as they realize that he is dead, the Israeli soldiers begin to fire on them again. To reiterate, again, this was a group of civilians, including children, who were waving white flags. They had done everything that Israel had told them to do. They were in an Israeli-declared safe area, and they were in the process of evacuating to a different safe area. So what did Destiny think about this? Well,
the interview complete, our cameraman walked away.
So like what? So he is interviewing the guy who's about to go do some shit to get himself killed, basically. That's what's going to happen. We know from this point, that's what's going to happen. So he walks away, gets back a little bit, and then he sets up behind this thing, right? Is this concealment, I guess? Not cover, concealment, right? Because I think the tank's over here. So now he can capture the footage right here. He sees the guys walking, knowing that they're about to get shot, because that's what's going to happen. And then eventually they get shot and everything is, this is it. It's like act 1, 2, and 3. It's like all here. Now this guy is down. He's dead. These guys are like...
and fatally wounded.
They're not even like... They're not even running. They're not even like cowering and running away and screaming in fear. There's like, okay, well, they did it. We got our shots. Okay, is this guy down? Oh, shit. Well, okay. Well, we brought the white flag so we can put that over the bleeding part, assuming he got shot and is actually right.
Flag on
and then
chest.
This guy, what, is this guy running back to grab the wife?
By this stage, the man's wife, his widow, has heard what happened.
And then, like, what does this mean? The wife has heard what happened. Like, bro, this is crazy. I'm sorry. the tracking live movement shot of the lady running up to her dead husband? Like, what is this?
By this stage, the man's wife, his widow, has heard what happened.
Somebody went back and told her, right? The 5 martyrs that walked forward, you know, your husband was the unlucky guy. He drew the short stick today, so come forward, cry for us on camera. Do you think the guy intentionally wanted to get killed? No, I don't think he wanted to die. I don't think they were thinking they were going to die, but they probably were hoping to get shot at, or maybe, so you're saying the woman was acting? I don't think the woman was acting. She probably was sincerely sad. Her husband got fucking killed, but I think they were farming TikTok clips. I mean, remember, these people, I mean these people actually, yeah, like have suicide bombers. So it's not that big of a stretch to imagine that they would be willing to get shot. However, now I haven't gone down this road because this is way more, it would require me to make a lot more assumptions, but it's also possible he didn't get shot, right? Now, do we know the name?
Dude, this is, I think Destiny is sincerely one of the worst human beings I've ever encountered. And what makes matters even crazier right now is that I'm certain that his brigaders are in the chat, actively farming the chat to probably try and clip something to be like, see, Hassan's community wants to like do harm to Destiny or something, devoid of the context of what he is saying here, in a way that they will try to propagandize a position that makes, in their minds, Destiny look good. This is insane. Like, this statement is so insane. He called your community terrorist supporters. I know, which is wild. He is a genocide supporter, not even a denier at that point, just a genocide supporter. I mean, we already know that. This is the classic clip. This is when he
thinks the right move.
Arrived at his position ahead of time before looking at all the Wikipedia pages that would then, in his mind, defend Israel's genocide of Palestinians.
Honestly, I'm pro-genocide. Like, it sounds really shitty, but like, I think that Israel should just draw up its fucking borders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place. That's really shitty, but like, that's about where I'm at.
You just think the Palestine should just pack up and Native American the fuck out of there?
The problem is that it seems like there is a hugely general hostility to Jewish people across really the entire world, but definitely the Middle East. So the problem is that as you weaken Israel's like ability for Jewish people to live there, it seems like there is because there's a lot of different organizations across the Middle East that are highly invested in the destruction of Israel. So that's like a really rough thing too. So it seems like if Israel is forced to make concessions to Palestinians, it threatens Jewish people's ability to have a homeland. And so I don't know. It's really shit. Truthfully, the answer is like there's no good answer.
What do you think's the right move?
Oh, this was before he. This is before this. This corresponds to that early position that he took. He took such a strong position that he had to defend it, you know?
The guy, is he actually dead? Do we even know if this is his wife? These are a whole bunch of questions that would be valid. Now, if I was way more on the pro-Zionist side, I would be asking those questions. Who is this guy? Do we even know if he's actually fucking dead? Like, we don't actually see the wound. It seems like they don't have any problem showing anything else. Like, why just the white flag so that it can look all bloody? Like, show us the actual gunshot. You have no problem showing other violence, right? What Pallywood means is that you're capturing intentional video footage to sell a certain narrative about what's going on, basically. So Pallywood might be, this, right? So the idea is that like 4 innocent civilians are like walking up and you just want like a clip here of the IDF shooting them for no reason because they're civilians with white flags. And you kind of ignore the fact that like, okay, well, they're in a battle zone in an area they were told to evacuate from, and they're going back to try to release somebody that
they're in a safe zone. They have white flags. Israel should not have shot them. That's incredible. That is, I mean, Pallywood, for those of you who don't know, is the unimaginably racist genocide denial theory that like all Palestinians that are killed deliberately either lie and they're not actually killed at all, or they deliberately try to get themselves killed in front of cameras so that people will hate Israel. Okay? And the quickest solution to that, which seemingly no defender of Israel ever arrives at, is don't fucking kill them. I mean, Pallywood ranges from the dead children that are on camera are actually toys. They're not real babies. It's fake. To a number of different psychotic conspiracies, which the Israeli government itself has routinely repeated, by the way.
It was captured. Like, that's like Pallywood, I think. You're essentially provoking the enemy to take what is largely a justified action.
Yeah, largely a justified action. Provoking the enemy for largely a justified action. You know, being Palestinian within the crosshairs of Israel is a death sentence. You should have just not been there. You should have personally self-exiled. Provoking the enemy in a safe zone while being unarmed and waving a white flag around your children.
And then trying to say that it's like indiscriminate civilian killing. It's like a setup. It's not fake, but they're doing it to themselves. You're dehumanizing yourself. You're suiciding and sacrificing your civilian population.
Did you get that? Did you digest what was just said there? Taking it in? The Palestinian civilians were asking for it. By trying to make a...
I even think that it's funny because, like, he moves on to his community trolling because, like, that one pro-Palestinian protester, there was a fan of mine came up to me and was like, Arnar, why are you drinking Karg? Like, that's it. That's the limit. That's the engagement that and the care and consideration Destiny has and his community has for this ongoing genocide, which is fun memes, drama, shitting on whoever the fuck you think is against your position after just doing genocide denial. Like, he just straightforwardly was like, yeah, these people are fucking suiciding themselves. And then he moves on and he's like, look at how fucking stupid this guy is. I need you to understand, because, like, he can just snap back from that to this because he doesn't give a fuck. Okay? Because he doesn't give a fuck.
Themselves. You're dehumanizing yourself. You're suiciding and sacrificing your civilian population.
You digest what was just said there, taking it in. The Palestinian civilians were asking for it. By trying to make a crossing in an officially Israeli...
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, like, a lot of right-wingers say horrifying shit on a regular basis, but I feel like there are probably right-wing commentators that wouldn't even go this fucking far. You know what I mean? There are plenty who do. And it's insane that Destiny is like, no, I'm a liberal. Like, I love Joe Biden. I'm a liberal. I love Kamala Harris. Why won't the DNC invite me? Why won't the Democratic Party invite me to the DNC? I'm a Democrat who, you know, is pro Kyle Rittenhouse, pro fucking white supremacists, killing Black Lives Matter protesters, anti-trans. Yeah.
declared safe zone for civilians, no less. They are responsible for their own murder. It's their fault for walking around with a white flag while being so Palestinian in the vision of an Israeli soldier. Much like Lonabox, his very first instinct when he is confronted with overwhelming evidence of the state which he unconditionally supports committing...
Apparently he was actually invited to the DNC, not sure how true though. Okay.
War crimes. When said evidence renders outright denial impossible, the first thing that comes to mind for him is to blame the victims for their own deaths. He literally, unironically...
Is he not ironically exactly what the Dem Party leaned into? Brother, I don't think you understand. Saying the quiet part out loud like this is offensive There is a point of permissible bigotry. And when you go beyond it, even your own supporters will say, ew, that's gross. That's my point. Okay? Now, not everyone pays attention to everything that's going on all the fucking time. But when you got a fucking dude who's like defending ethical CP and shit, okay, in his mind, or saying stuff like this, for example,
I called
okay,
you a pedo yesterday.
So some kids are really
They
hot.
dug in deep.
Oh.
But they were trying to call you a pedo yesterday.
So some kids are really
They
hot.
dug in deep.
Oh.
like I know he's being sarcastic here, you know? I get it. I understand. But it's so fucking gross. Do you understand?
It happened in the same day.
Like, you only do this if you want to be fucking edgy and you're a dark humor enjoyer.
That I was getting accused of wanting to kill babies, like wanting to snipe them or whatever. Fucking Israel.
Some babies are really annoying.
But it's like, how is it that we're both aligned then? If like you want to fucking rape the kids and I want to kill them.
I'm a necrophiliac pedophile.
That's the holy fucking sentence.
After you kill them, I have my way with them.
Yeah, dark, edgy jokes, man. Dark, edgy jokes. Like, it's over. You are a unimaginably toxic person, okay? That's it. You only feel comfortable saying this shit, even as a fucking joke, okay? You only feel comfortable saying this shit, even as a goddamn joke, if you are so echo chamber, so hugboxed into believing that, like, everyone around you or everyone in the normal world that will encounter some of your sentiment is just as edgy as you are. It's all fucking Groyper losers or former 4chan losers who are now, you know, still doing the same shit, but now they say they're liberals, okay?
Makes the argument that Palestinians are essentially like baiting Israeli soldiers by walking provocatively with a white flag.
A community who labels streamer distancing themselves as bridge burning and does character assassinations via manifestos for their slimy subreddit and creating Google Drives of out-of-context clips. They're a bunch of sweaty losers. I know.
Into killing them so that they can film it to do what he calls farming TikTok clips. This is the level of depravity, of desperation that the genocide propagandists are at. Israel's actions are so obvious, so clear, so well evidenced, so indefensible that there are frequently times like these where the best defense they can muster is, well, what did you expect, man? It's not like you can expect an Israeli soldier to resist an opportunity to just murder a Palestinian civilian. You were kind of asking for it there. And they aren't even cognitive of how what they're saying is a denouncement of themselves, of Israel, of everything they're trying to defend. The Goebbels level Israeli genocide propaganda that they are utilizing to attempt to justify their genocide, that's the fault of Palestinians and their supporters for even talking about it.
People who were anti-Israel, they were the ones who spread that.
Palestinian civilians being murdered by Israel on video in broad daylight while waving white flags in an Israeli-declared safe zone, that's their fault too.
I think they were farming TikTok clips.
Now, genocide justification usually has levels to it. It has like a checklist. First, it's blatant lies, attempting to sow doubt about the facts. You know, we can't really know what's going on, right? There's the fog of war. It's very unclear, though in this case, it's very much not unclear. The evidence is totally overwhelming. You see it on your social media feed every single day. They nonetheless have to act like the evidence is not clear, have to muddy the waters because it's the best that they can manage. To begin with, it's either that or just outright denying that it happened. The evidence is fake. It's Hollywood, as our friend Destiny so graciously called it. It's a Hamas conspiracy to delegitimize Israel, stuff like that. Then once that argument inevitably falls over, they move on to what Lonerbox tried in that first clip. Okay, so it did happen, but there is an accident or there is some other explanation for it. Then when that doesn't work out, they move on to claiming, okay, so it wasn't an accident and maybe there isn't a good explanation for it, but that's not representative.
Why is this guy elevated to any sort of level whatsoever when he says loser 4chan basement dweller type shit? He presents himself as like a liberal pretty well in debate situations. And in short TikTok clips, like short TikTok style clips, he can appear normal. But the reason why he has an audience is because there are a lot of fucking people who like this kind of thing. There are a lot of fucking edgy losers out there. You know, because some leftists are racist? No, dog. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't think Destiny's community has any fucking leftists whatsoever. Get the fuck out of here. And most people that maybe watch some of his debates or whatever that are like, damn, I kind of like what this guy has to say, will very quickly find out what he's all about and will be grossed out by it. But no, I don't think he is not a leftist, and his community is not leftist either. I wouldn't even say he's fucking liberal. I think he's just a mercenary. There's never been a moment where he's actually had any broad popularity beyond like being astroturfed and brigaded into every fucking subreddit. His Twitter community does this on a regular basis. His fan base is basically a cult. That's it. And also being loved by Twitter, you know, that does make sense. I mean, Twitter is fucking edgy as shit. I think a lot of people forget he cultivates his community on his own website. That amount of parasocial is crazy. That on top of banning dissenting opinions will create these people. Dude, this man has had a very public online career since like what, 2008 or some shit. He has only compounded on the hatred and the disgusting actions since then. Okay? And he will never stop because for the most part, like it's so overwhelming, it's so freakish, and most people don't have the time to basically pay attention to all the things that he's done. What? I'm asking in very good faith. What's the question? What did you ask? You didn't ask anything.
Of the conduct of the Israeli military overall, please ignore the endless evidence that it is. It's got nothing to do with the Israeli government or systematic Israeli policy. It's just one or two guys doing some bad stuff, you know? Then when none of that works...
By the way, what he's detailing right here is basically the same strategy that even mainstream outlets employ, for the record. And I think that's part of it as well. His fans are already repeating lies such as you defend women being raped. Yeah, they're fucking insane, dude. I mean, it just, there's no end to the depravity, okay? That's it. They're psychotic, which is ironic because he has routinely victim blamed actual victims of sexual assault and sometimes directly debated them. That's what's so crazy. And it doesn't matter. When you don't have any real fucking positions, it does not matter, okay? It doesn't matter.
Or systematic Israeli policy, it's just one or two guys doing some bad stuff, you know? Then when none of that works, when they are backed into a corner by the endless evidence that makes it abundantly clear that this is very much intentional policy, they move on to one of two things. Acknowledging that it's happening, but implying that somehow the
he told Ludwig he was going to jag off the cuties AI porn, dude. Like, it's just, the depravity is out of fucking control. Like, it just... It's certain things he's done that are so gross that it's like weird to even bring up. You know what I mean? He's talking about Slime's dad dying too with, you know, similar severity.
Victims made it happen, or the tried and tested strategy of, so are you implying that Israel would intentionally do the thing that there is clear evidence that is intentionally doing? What are you, anti-Semitic? Now I'm going to bring up a clip of Israel's lawyer desperately trying to defend Israel from the charges, incredibly well evidenced, that it is systematically using Gazan civilians as human shields. This is something that has been evidenced by dozens of testimonies of the victims, by clear photo and video evidence of it occurring, and by Israeli soldiers themselves who have come forward to...
Hasn't he joked about Ethan and his family too? Wait, has he? I didn't even know that. I know he's called him an R word like a lot. Like a lot. Recently said some shit about Michael Jamal Brooks, who died. It was like shitting on him, saying like, thank God he's dead.
to say that the practice is happening. Think about the checklist that I went over and see which tactic you can see being used here.
I'm guessing you already know that they're using like Gazan civilians to scope out tunnels and buildings, right?
Yeah, I know that, yeah. Or at least the Haaretz article said that, so yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a top-down thing. So it is policy. It's not just the accountability thing. Right?
Is that like is that actually their military policy though? Because I thought one of the problems there was that soldiers eventually were refusing to do it because of the unlawful order.
There were some that didn't want to do it, but it was still like the commander issuing the orders, and it's a pretty open secret in the IDF, and it has been done before in other wars.
Yeah, so you're saying a commander did it, but a commander obviously is not particularly high up in the chain of command. Like, is it the case that is it still the case that it's their IDF policy? Like, it's the policy from like the chief of staff though, or is it like commanders are doing it, but people are turning a blind eye? Because that's like my argument. My argument is that people are getting away with committing crimes because there's not going to be accountability, but it still doesn't negate the fact that their training even tells them not to do that. Their training tells them if you get an unlawful order, you're supposed to disobey.
So he's making the bad apples argument here, except not for individual soldiers, but for commanders. You know, the fact that there are individual soldiers who are refusing this order and going to the media to complain about it indicates that it is in fact systemic, that it is in fact policy, because it is coming from the commanders, and it is only a few individual soldiers who have denounced it. That is the exact opposite of a few bad apples. But he nonetheless tries to make that argument because nothing else occurs to him. I'm eagerly awaiting the sequel to this argument. It's just a few bad prime ministers. Like, half of his arguments are these clearly systemic practices that have been repeated time and time again in a clear pattern of conduct that is simply undeniable, are somehow not indicative of Israeli policy, of Israel's goals in this so-called war, of why they're there in the first place, and why they are doing what they are doing. While we're on that note, let's go over one final clip. It is his reaction to Mehdi Hassan going over a laundry list of Israel's genocidal crimes that they have committed in the last year.
I don't understand how we're debating this more than 40,000 deaths later. I don't understand how we're still debating this sitting in the comfort of New York, 7,000 miles away from a place that the UN Secretary General has called hell on earth. Justified? Justified? Was Israel justified in carrying out one of the most intense civilian punishment campaigns in history, according to Dr. Robert Pape at the University of Chicago, dropping 500-pound bombs, 1,000-pound bombs, 2,000-pound bombs on schools, hospitals, universities, bookstores, libraries, mosques, churches, refugee camps, apartment buildings, cemeteries, destroying a higher percentage of buildings in northern Gaza than the Allies destroyed in Dresden during World War II, reducing Gaza to 42 million tons of rubble while they got people out of the way? How is that justified? Dropping a bomb, for example, on a 6-story apartment building in central Gaza last October, killing more than 100 people inside, including more than 50 children, with no Hamas target in sight, according to Human Rights Watch, with no explanation offered by the Israeli military. Even till today, was that justified, Elon? Was Israel justified in telling people to go to safe zones and then bombing them and killing them in those safe zones? According to NBC, there were 7 deadly airstrikes between January and April in areas that the Israeli military had specifically designated as safe zones, killing Palestinian civilians like Sabrine Sakani, who was 30 weeks pregnant at the time. She was killed in a safe zone in April. Her little baby, newborn baby, died less than a week later. Was that justified too, Elon? Was Israel justified in killing a record number of kids in Gaza, 16,000 children, turning Gaza into what the UN has called a graveyard for children, according to Save the Children, killing more kids in the first 3 weeks that were killed globally in each of the past 4 years, killing little kids like 6-year-old Hind Rajab and her 15-year-old sister Leanne, firing 335 bullets into the car they were in. 335 bullets. And then killing the 2 paramedics who went to try and rescue them. Was that justified too, Elon? Was Israel justified in killing a record number of aid workers in Gaza? Right? A record number. Targeting again and again, systematically, car by car, according to Chef Jose Andreas. A specifically, explicitly marked World Central Kitchen aid convoy killing 7 aid workers in the process. Was that justified? Was Israel justified in starving the people of Gaza, using food and water as a weapon of war, to quote both the EU and Oxfam? Was Israel justified in blocking aid trucks from going into Gaza simply because they carry things like crutches, nail clippers, and even chocolate croissants, according to the Washington Post? Was Israel justified in raping, sodomizing Palestinian detainees who were charged with no crimes whatsoever? Putting hot rods up their rectums, amputating their limbs, according to CNN and the New York Times. Was that rape and torture justified, Elon? Israel, according to the ICC chief prosecutor, who put out a statement calling for the arrest of Elon's former boss, Benjamin Netanyahu, said that Israel may have military goals, legitimate goals, but the way they're carried out, killing innocent people, starving people, is criminal, he said. Criminal, think about that. Elon Levy is a former spokesperson for a man who the ICC chief prosecutor once arrested for war crimes. Elon himself has produced a number of lies, sorry John, in service of those war crimes. He has a bunch of tweets still up tonight which say that babies were beheaded on October the 7th, babies were baked in ovens, babies were ripped from their mother's wombs. October 7th was bad enough, but Elon had to exaggerate it for atrocity purposes. Those tweets are still up. Why would you trust anything this man says to you tonight? Look, he's here to gaslight you, to defend the indefensible, to excuse the inexcusable, to justify the unjustifiable, but you don't need to. Tonight you can choose to be on the side not of cruelty, not of criminality, but on the side of the innocent people of Gaza who are being killed as we speak tonight, as we speak, by Elon's former colleagues in the Israeli military on the orders of Elon's former bosses in the Israeli government. So yes, I choose to oppose this horrific and homicidal motion.
I think the problem is that if you want to get, I'm trying to think of like how you would illustrate what's wrong with what Mehdi's saying, is let's assume that every case that Mehdi put forward was true. When he talks about particular,
it is, but okay.
Instance like the WCK bombing, or the person who was the child who was shot while they were in a car, or like all this kind of stuff. So if they're talking about that, then it's kind of like saying that doesn't really. You could just argue none of that actually says whether or not the broad military campaign is justified or not. You understand that, right?
So apparently, the fact that Israel is clearly systematically committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, pretty much every international crime that you could ever think of, on a mass scale, patterns that make it clear that they are there in order to do what they are literally doing. We, however, cannot judge their so-called military campaign by what they are doing. The fact that they are doing these things says nothing about whether them doing those things is actually justified or not. Apparently, in order to deduce why Israel is doing what it is doing in Gaza, we can't look at what it's doing in Gaza. You know, like destroying 60% of all buildings in the territory, many of them through literal controlled demolitions. Schools, mosques, churches, museums, all destroyed intentionally. Massacring endless scores of civilians with numbers that are simply impossible to achieve unless it is being done intentionally. We apparently can't look at that and say, yeah, they're there because they want to kill the civilians. That's why they're killing them. They're there because they want to expel the civilians. That's why they are expelling them. They're destroying every single building there because they want to destroy it. Because they want to destroy Gaza. No. You can't do that. Why? He just sort of decided you can't. That really is all there is to it. That's his argument. And that is aside from, all of the undeniable statements, plans, etc., coming from the Israeli state. They make it very clear that this is what they want to do from the very beginning, and it's what they have been doing, and that they are going to continue to be doing it, like their leaked plans to do exactly what they are doing, which filtered out already in October 2023, people at the highest levels of government outright saying that that is what they are doing. They openly discussed plans to build concentration camps in Gaza, which the survivors will be hoarded into for threat of death if they try to leave. The Israeli military just openly declaring today, as I film this video, that they have no intention to allow the residents of the northern Gaza Strip to return to their homes, and that anyone in the entire northern half of Gaza is not a civilian who they can just freely kill. Ignore all of that, right? Or try to frame it as if it's not indicative of broad Israeli policy, just a few fringe crazies like, the prime minister of the country, the defense minister, the top brass of the IDF, who are those people, right? That's just a couple of bad apples. It's incoherent. It's incredibly stupid. They make themselves look like massive dumbasses and horrid people, all because they have committed themselves to defending the clearly indefensible.
It's also interesting because, a lot of people immediately go, oh, they're paid. They're paid to do this. And I saw a lot of this during the COVID misinformation era as well. No, dude. I don't think these people are paid to do this. I think they do it because... No, not just that they're dumb. I think they do it because it boosts them in the algorithm. That's it. The payment itself is clout. They do it for, it's not free. They still get paid in the form of advertising dollars and shit like that. But that is a big part of the reason. That is the big motivation here, I think. And I assume for Lonerbox, that's more so that he gets validation from Destiny, whose orbit he is very clearly within. It seems like he is completely captured by the Destiny audience train, thinking that will, give him a lifeline, when he didn't have to be like this at all, in my opinion.
Box has a particular disdain for Mehdi Hassan, by the way. You can see that in this clip.
I will happily support this pin because I support the release of all the hostages and let me finish. And I support the release of thousands of Palestinian detainees being raped and tortured and children. Do you support that? Let's wear it together. Do you support the release? Do you support the release of Palestinians? I do not support, the release of terrorists. Of Palestinian children. Do you support the release of Palestinian children?
Why is he? Oh God, what a fucking creep, man! Again, you can talk about the unlawfulness of the imprisoning, but the Palestinians who are imprisoned in Israeli centers are not imprisoned randomly.
Of thousands of Palestinian detainees.
Oh, Israel said there was valid reason for it, so it must be correct. This is the benefit of a state doing the unjustifiable shit versus an organization that is not a functioning state, basically. No, the process of administrative detention, even though it's done within the state's legal boundaries, is unjustifiable. Slavery was also institutionally protected, and so was the apartheid in South Africa.
Detainees being raped and tortured and children. Do you support?
So, Mehdi Hassan mentions that Palestinians are being kidnapped from Gaza by the IDF, put into concentration camps in Israel, and then systematically starved, tortured, and mass raped. A practice that we mostly know about because many of the torture and rape victims were released without any charge, showing that even Israel thinks that they were innocent of whatever it is that Israel initially accused them of. Lonerbox's immediate reaction to this is to laugh. He smiles, he laughs, he's like, oh my god, not this bullshit again. And then he goes on to say that the tortured and raped prisoners, including children...
The irony of having General Strike Now and Kick Fascism posters behind you as you defend a fascist state and its genocidal ambitions, its genocidal actions is crazy. Like, the irony is thick there, okay?
As Mehdi Hassan specifically mentioned, children had it coming. They deserved it. Israel wouldn't just torture and rape anyone, right?
The Palestinians who are imprisoned in Israeli centers are not imprisoned like randomly.
You notice how he called Mehdi Hassan a creep for mentioning that?
Do you support the release of Palestinian children?
Why is he? Oh God, what a fucking creep, man.
As if his own position is not accurately defined as one that can only come from a creep. The disdain for Hassan is palpable, and the reason for that is pretty simple. Mehdi Hassan drives liberal Zionists like this absolutely mad, because he is essentially what they pretend to be. Hassan has a long history of being a partisan for Western imperialism, of denouncing any resistance against it, including Palestinian resistance to Israel.
Low-key, that's the point. Like Mehdi Hassan is so moderate in all of his positions and such a loyal soldier when he needs to be with respect to the Democratic Party and defending the Democratic Party. Okay? This is precisely the reason why liberal Zionists fucking hate him more than anybody else. That's why they like lose their minds. Because he holds up the yellow pin, the pin, without addressing its propagandistic purpose. He's hard to discredit. It doesn't matter. They still do. They call him a terrorist. He's brown. Here's D a couple years ago saying the opposite of what he believes now. Just know you're not crazy for ever associating with him. No, I know. He used to be he used to criticize Israel, but then he decided that he personally decided that it's better for him to be a fucking edgy contrarian because he has no real positions. That's my point. And back then, he still didn't have all the facts, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't need all the facts to make convincing arguments. That's it.
He never would have been allowed anywhere near the prominent mainstream media positions that he's held throughout his career if that wasn't the case. However, when Hassan sees something so clearly indefensible, so overwhelmingly well evidenced, like Israel's Gaza genocide, he's not hyper committed to defending Israel no matter.
Didn't he repeatedly argue with and against Israeli Zionists as well, though? Who? Is this a case of someone being straight up Islamophobic openly? I don't know this guy's background. I wonder if he's a pseudo-intellectual with a shallow understanding that unknowingly pushes harmful rhetoric for the sake of wanting to be right. Nah.
Matter what, so he's still able to point to Israel's obvious crimes and call a spade. But liberal Zionists like Lonerbox, like Destiny, are hyper-committed to defending Israel, no matter what.
I don't even think Destiny's a liberal Zionist, I'm gonna be honest. I think Boner Box might be, but I don't think Destiny is.
So when guys like Hassan, who otherwise share their professed liberal ideology, don't mince words about the facts of what Israel is doing, don't act as if they are Israel's lawyer, it exposes them as what they really are, not the humanistic, critical thinking progressives that they like to present themselves as, but rather partisans for a genocidal, ethno-nationalist, settler colonial project whose nature as such was already very difficult for them to argue against or skirt around beforehand.
He's not talking about me, he's talking about Mehdi Hassan.
But which is now impossible for them to plausibly deny, as Israel's genocidal actions, broadcast to the world in vivid, horrific detail, have finally made everything so clear that even a liberal like Mehdi Hassan refuses to accept their bullshit anymore. These people are abhorrent, disgusting genocide propagandists. Everyone already knew that about Destiny, but if you've only been exposed to Lonerbox through his main channel content...
I used to watch Lonerbox when he first started. He was just a leftist YouTuber. Then when Ukraine happened, he like positioned himself as the anti-Hassan because he made a mistake. I stopped watching, obviously. Yeah. When he was reacting to your debate with Asman, he didn't critique Asman at all. He just shit on your takes. Yeah. I mean, these guys like try to reposition what it means to be like progressive or a leftist. And seemingly enough, it's always just like whoever is truly a progressive or truly a liberal or truly a leftist, those people are bad. Also, it's somewhat the path of least resistance. They know that if they say these things, the State Department is saying it will never harm their careers. That plus the algo leads to this. Yeah. Think about the endless amount. Think about the endless amount of fucking smear campaigns that I've withstood where, you know, people have actively tried to get me deplatformed over and over again for standing true to my values, my beliefs, and never stopping my criticisms of Israel because Israel is an apartheid state and that Israel is doing a genocide. Now, on the other hand, no such efforts exist for these guys, you know, not bad empanada. No such effort of deplatforming will exist ever if you just simply say the most unhinged shit in defense of Israel. These debate perverts want you to think they're leftist and that leftist equals fascist, but we let the gays live and maybe abortion is okay. Yeah, it's just so... I don't know. It's just so frustrating. Not gonna lie, I'm seeing this grift pointless. Maybe it gave them an audience, but regular people find them disgusting. Yeah. What? These subreddit had a legitimate debate about if this was Islamophobic. Of course, there's no way they would show empathy to Palestinians. Muslims are dumb as fuck. Evil cult religion. Muhammad was a pedo, war criminal, a slave trader. Yeah. I don't know. I hate him, but he did get banned, so there were some repercussions. No, dog, he didn't get banned for fucking his endless defense of Israel's genocide. No, he got banned for all the other shit that he did way back in the day, which is compounded at this point. And I was talking about Lonerbox anyway. There are no repercussions for being maximum pro Israel's genocide. That's it.
And you might not have known that about him. As I said, his ideology is one called liberal Zionism. It's one that I have spoken about before in a video of mine, which I made more than a year before October 7th and the Gaza genocide. If you would like more information about how people like him use the false idea that they are pro-Palestinian when they are very clearly anti-Palestinian and pro-Israel to pull in people who are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, but who don't know quite enough about it to realize that it's all...
This is the best part of this video. I think people don't fucking understand this because they're like uninitiated, but that's why I'm extra annoyed. I'm extra annoyed with like fucking people who masquerade as liberals, right? But then have a number of different positions that are so inconsistent with even like liberalism or the Democratic Party. It's the Tim Pool strategy, but done better. Okay? Tim Pool also claims to be a liberal all the time, but like at this point we all recognize he's not, right? But what's very frustrating about it is that what's really, really frustrating about it is that liberal Zionists will try to masquerade as those who are, say what you will, but V is not a Zionist, Lamau. I don't think he is. I don't know what Bad Empanada is talking about. I don't even know anything about this fucking video. I don't really care about any of this stuff. I I don't know the extent of Bad Empanada's positions, but he's literally also criticized me in the past for not being sufficiently pro-Palestine. So, you know, it doesn't matter to me. The VTuber is the Zionist in that video. Oh, okay, yeah. Lonerbox is even worse than the extremist Zionists who openly advocate for genocide, because Lonerbox's entire project is erasing the thought that people with that mindset exist and run political scene within Israel. He only argues with those he pretends don't exist. He argues with Zionists who spout the pro-genocide insanity that Lonerbox pretends is impossible to imagine being actual beliefs. No, I don't know what Vosh's positions are. I haven't kept up with anything he's done, but I doubt that he's pro-Israel. I think at most he will probably do like the Hassan is wrong because he's like defending the Ansar Allah administration's attempts of trying to stop Israel from conducting a genocide. But beyond that, I don't think he would go so far as to be like pro-Israel in any capacity.
All an act, and that they are being conned into eventually becoming Zionists themselves and nodding along to the kind of genocide justifying propaganda that we've gone over here, then you should check out that video that I made on the matter, which is very long but nonetheless goes over it in depth and uses Lonerbox specifically as an example of this phenomenon. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here about liberal Zionism and what it is. I feel like you might have already gotten the gist from this video. But yeah, if you want more of an in-depth look at it, I suggest you check out that video. Point is, don't be duped by these people. They have shown their whole ass. It was already obvious to me, as someone who is very well versed on this topic beforehand, before the Gaza genocide, but now it is absolutely undeniable. You simply cannot watch people like this making those sorts of arguments and seriously argue that they are not simply anti-Palestinianists interested in doing whatever part they can to spread propaganda and enable an ongoing genocide to continue. We can only hope that a day where these people will be held to account, brought to justice for their clear as day genocide propaganda will come. Thanks for watching. Free Palestine. Thanks for watching.
The funniest criticism he has made of you is that you don't directly fund Hamas. Yeah, go support this fucking dipshit that I do appreciate, regardless of my disagreements with him on his optics and the ways that he conducts himself with regular frequency. Because ultimately, his product, his YouTube essays as a standalone entity, is always solid. Regardless of the fact that he is, once again, a fucking ginormous dipshit all the time. He is. Look, I've always, I maintain this position, okay? Bad Empanada's so crazy, he gets you to care about optics like a debate liberal. I mean, of course I care about optics. What are you kidding me? I'm a fucking communicator in an environment that is like immediately antagonistic to my fucking worldview. Yes, of course I care about it. That's why I always say message to your audience. Like, know what your audience is and message towards them. You don't have to cast aside your framework, your moral framework, or the things that you believe, but, you know, be normal. What a hate endorsement. No, I've been a supporter of his YouTube essays and have openly talked about how I think his YouTube essays as a standalone work is great. It's very well resourced. I mean, it's very well sourced. It's a fantastic educational resource. What? Have you seen this hilarious tweet about you, by the way? Worst outcome of this election is now I kind of respect Hassan. My expectations were rock bottom, and in surprising move, he actually reached those expectations. Can't trick me. I still don't fully trust any Twitch streamer, but he kept very politically consistent throughout the election when it would have been easier to give in. Getting invited to the DNC only should talk Obama during his speech and then kicked out for talking with uncommitted. I mean, I don't think people understand. Like, I just. That is the, you know what it is?